The meeting room buzzed with angry voices. Captain Hannah sat quietly at the metal table while alien commanders argued around her, their strange languages mixed together into one loud mess of complaints and demands. Commander Svagstar slammed his forearms on the table. His purple skin turned darker when he got mad. This is foolish, he said in his deep voice. Humans are too slow for real combat. They think too much before they act. The Zephyrians are much faster, added General Crix. Her tall, thin body swayed as she spoke. My soldiers can move like shadows. They can kill 12 enemies before a human even draws their weapon. Lieutenant Day wrote notes on her small tablet. She kept her face calm, but her dark eyes watched every alien in the room. Next to her, Ensign Bo shifted in his chair. The young man's hands were tight on his knees. Humans are good for support. Work, Vaxstar continued. They can fix our ships and carry our supplies. But when we need fast kills, we need real warriors. Captain Hannah finally spoke. Her voice was quiet but clear. What makes you think speed is everything? Laurent went silent. All the alien eyes turned to look at her. Some had 2 eyes, others had 4. A few had eyes that glowed in the dark. Combat is about speed, said Commander Thresh. His rock-like skin made grinding sounds when he moved. The fastest fighter wins. This is basic truth across all worlds. On my planet, Hannah said, we have a saying. The fastest runner does not always win the race. Sometimes the smartest runner finds a better path. Several aliens made sounds that might have been laughing. General Crix's mouth opened to show rows of sharp teeth. Humans and their cute sayings. This is not a race, Captain. This is war. War requires results, Hannah replied, not just speed. Vexter stood up. His big body cast a shadow over the table. Results. Your species has been in space for what, 200 years? My people have been fighting wars for 10,000 years. We know what works. Then why do you need our help? Asked Lieutenant Day. The question hung in the air like smoke. The aliens looked at each other. Their faces showed confusion and anger. We do not need your help, Vexter said slowly. The Galactic Council requires mixed species teams. It is politics, not military sense. Admiral Zorth entered the room. His old face was covered in scars from many battles. Every alien in the room stood up when they saw him. The humans stayed sitting. Sit down, all of you, Zorth said. I have news about our mission. A large screen came down from the ceiling. It showed pictures of a space station. The station was big and dark, with many weapons pointing in all directions. This is Prison Station Blackrock, Zorth explained. Terrorists have taken it over. They are holding 47 hostages inside. 23 are human diplomats. The rest are from different alien worlds. The screen changed to show the inside of the station. Long halls, many rooms, and guards everywhere. The terrorists say they will kill all hostages if we attack, Zorth continued. They have motion sensors, heat detectors, and automatic guns. Any alarm goes off, the hostages die in 60 seconds. How do we get them out? Asked General Crix. We need a team to get inside without setting off alarms, Zorth said. The main guard room has 12 armed terrorists. They watch all the cameras and control all the alarms. That room must be cleared completely before anyone can save the hostages. Star stepped forward. My hegemony warriors can do this. We are trained for silent killing. Zephyrians are better, said General Crix. We can become invisible to their eyes. My Korthok fighters have the fastest reflexes, added Commander Thresh. We can kill all 12 guards in 5 seconds, Admiral. Zorth nodded. All good points, but there is one problem. The alarm system has a 3-second delay. From the moment it detects any threat, you have 3 seconds before it sends the alarm signal. The room went quiet again. 3 seconds was not much time. That means, Zorth continued, whoever goes in must kill all 12 guards in less than 3 seconds. No mistakes, no second chances. Impossible, whispered someone. Not impossible, said Captain Hannah. Just difficult. All eyes turned to her again. This time, the aliens were not laughing. You think humans can do this? Asked Vexter. Your people cannot even run as fast as a Zephyrian child. Running fast and fighting smart are different things, Hannah said. Smart does not matter if you are dead, Thresh replied. Lieutenant Day closed her tablet and looked up. Admiral, what exactly happens when the alarm detects a threat? Dorth looked at her with interest. Motion sensors pick up fast movement. Heat sensors detect body temperature changes. Sound sensors hear loud noises. If any 2 sensors activate at the same time, the alarm starts counting down. What about the guards themselves? Day asked. Do they have panic buttons? Yes. Each guard has a device on their belt. They press it. Instant alarm. Day nodded slowly, in the room layout. I will show you. Zorth pressed a button. The screen showed a detailed map of the guard room. 12 guards, 4 at each corner, 4 in the center. They rotate positions every 10 minutes. Lighting, Day asked. Standard white lights. Very bright. No shadows to hide in. Whispered something to Day. She nodded and asked, what kind of weapons do the guards carry? Energy rifles, plasma pistols, and shock batons. Zorth answered. Captain Hannah stood up. Admiral, I request that my team handles the guard room breach. The aliens started talking all at once. Their voices were loud and angry. This is madness, shouted Vexter. Humans will get everyone killed. Let them try, said General Crix. When they fail, we will do it properly. Admiral Zorth held up his hand for silence. Captain Hannah, explain your thinking. My people have been fighting wars for thousands of years too, Hannah said. We learned that the biggest weapon is not in your hand. It is in your head. Pretty words will not stop energy. Rifles, Thresh said. No, agreed Hannah. But understanding your enemy will. She looked around the room at all the alien faces. You all think about what you can do. We think about what needs to be done. Same thing, Vexter said. Not always, Hannah replied. Sometimes the best way to win is not to fight at all. The aliens looked confused. Lieutenant Day smiled for the first time since the meeting started. Admiral Zorth studied Captain Hannah for a long moment. Very well. Your team gets the first try. But if you fail, the hostages die. Can you live with that responsibility? Yes, sir, Hannah said without hesitation. Then prepare your team. We leave in 6 hours. The meeting ended and aliens filed out of the room. Vexter stopped next to Hannah's chair. Human, he said quietly. I hope your confidence is not just foolish pride. Hannah looked up at him. Commander, I hope your assumptions about my species are not just foolish prejudice. The alien commander left without another word. Lieutenant Day and Ensign Bo remained with their captain. Do we really have a plan? Bo asked nervously. Hannah smiled. We will, Day. What did you think about that room layout? Interesting, Day said. Very interesting indeed. The briefing room was now filled with detailed maps and glowing screens. Admiral Zorth stood at the front, while dozens of officers from different species studied the mission information. Captain Hannah sat with her human team on one side, the alien warriors grouped together on the other side of the room. Listen carefully, Admiral Zorth began. Prison Station Blackrock was built as the most secure facility in this sector. The terrorists who took it know exactly what they are doing. The main screen showed the space station rotating slowly in the darkness. Red lights marked weapon positions all around its surface. The station has 3 main sections, Zorth continued. Section A contains the power systems and life support. Section B has the guard rooms and security center. Section C holds the prison cells where our hostages are being kept. Lieutenant Tay leaned forward in her chair. She watched every detail on the screen as new images appeared. The terrorists have 40 fighters inside, Zorth said. 12, always in the main guard room. The others patrol different areas. They communicate every 5 minutes through radio checks. Ensign Bo raised his hand. Sir, what happens if a patrol misses their radio check? Automatic lockdown, Zorth replied. All doors seal shut. All hostages die within 1 minute. The room became very quiet. Several alien officers whispered to each other in their native languages. This brings us to our main problem, Zorth continued. The guard room controls everything. All cameras, all alarms, all communication systems. If we want to save the hostages, we must take that room first. A new image showed the inside of the guard room. It was large and bright with white walls and no places to hide. 12 terrorists sat at different stations, watching screens and holding weapons. The room has one entrance, Zorth explained. Heavy metal door, electronic lock, camera watching the hallway outside. Once someone enters, there is nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. Commander Vexstar stood up. Lie hegemony. Warriors have done missions like this before. We can break down the door and overwhelm them with superior firepower. That will trigger the alarms immediately, Zorth said. Remember, 3 seconds maximum before the alarm activates. 10, we kill them all in 2 seconds, Vexstar replied. Confidently, General Crix made a sound like laughing. The Gemini warriors are strong, but slow. My Zephyrians are much faster. We can enter the room invisible and strike before they even know we are there. She stood up and her body began to shimmer. Within seconds, she became almost transparent, like clear water. Impressive, admitted Commander Thresh. But Korthok reflexes are still the fastest in the galaxy. Watch this. Thresh moved his arm so quickly it was just a blur. He grabbed a small metal cup from the table and crushed it before anyone could blink. Speed, without planning, it's just chaos, said Captain Hannah quietly. The aliens turned to look at her. Some made annoyed sounds. You have something better to offer? Asked Vexter. Maybe, Hannah replied. But first, I want to understand the room better. Admiral, what kind of weapons do the guards carry? Energy rifles that can kill in 1 shot, Zorth answered. Plasma pistols as backup weapons. Each guard also has personal armor that can stop most small weapons. What about their positions in the room? Asked Lieutenant Day. 4 guards at the corners, 4 in the center, 4 near the walls, Zorth said. They change positions every 10 minutes, but they always maintain the same pattern. Do they ever leave their posts? Day continued. Only for bathroom breaks, 1 at a time, never more than 2 minutes away. Ensign Bo wrote notes on his tablet. Sir, what about the lighting in the room? It's very bright white lights, no shadows. The terrorists made sure no one could hide anywhere. Air circulation, asked Day. Admiral Zorth looked surprised by the question. Standard life support systems. Why do you ask? It's gathering information, sir. It's Pilot GI, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. What about the door lock? Electronic or manual? Electronic with backup manual controls, Zorth replied. But it requires 2 different keycards to open. Do we have those keycards? Asked Captain Hannah. Huh? You will have to find another way inside. Commander Vexstar laughed loudly. This is getting more impossible by the minute. How do you plan to get through a locked door, kill 12 armed guards, and do it all in 3 seconds? We'll find a way, Hannah said calmly. Faith and hope will not stop energy rifles, said General Crix. Neither will invisible skin if you do not think before you act, Day replied. The alien general's eyes flashed with anger. Are you questioning our tactics, human? I am questioning everyone's tactics, Day said, including our own. Admiral Zorth stepped between them. Enough arguing. We need to make decisions. Commander Vexter, show us your plan. Vexter moved to the front of the room. Simple and direct. My warriors break down the door with explosive charges. We rush in with heavy weapons and destroy all enemies before they can react. Time estimate? Asked Zorth. 4 to 5 seconds for complete room clearance. Too slow, Zorth said. Doms will activate. General Crix pushed past Vexter. My turn. To Zephyrin's turn, invisible, and slip through the door when it opens for a guard change. They position themselves at opposite corners. Squant, on my signal. They strike simultaneously at all 12 targets. How do they get weapons inside? Undetected, asked Zorth. We use natural claws and poison, silent and deadly. Time estimate, 2 seconds maximum. Better, but risky. What if the invisibility fails? Commander Thresh stepped forward. Korthok's speed is the answer. 1 warrior enters through the door. It's 12 kills in 1 second using throne blades. No weapons to detect. No technology to fail? Accuracy at that speed? Zorth asked. Korthok warriors never miss. Admiral Zorth looked at all 3 alien plans. Interesting options. Captain Hannah, what does your team propose? Hannah stood up slowly. We need more information before we make any plans. What kind of information? Zorth asked. Everything, said Lieutenant Day. Guard rotation schedules, meal times, shift changes, personal habits. We need to know these people, not just their positions. That could take days, Vexter complained. The hostages might be dead by then. Better to take time and succeed than to rush and fail, Hannah replied. Time is a luxury we do not have, said General Crix. Pilot GI cleared his throat. Aquila. Actually, we might have more time than we think. I have been monitoring terrorist communications. They are planning something big, but not for another 48 hours. What kind of big? Asked Admiral Zorth. Unknown, sir. But they keep mentioning a deadline 2 days from now. This news changed everything. The aliens began talking among themselves again. 48 hours gives us time to study the target, said Captain Hannah. We can learn their patterns and find their weaknesses, or we can attack now while they are not expecting it, argued Vextar. Surprise attacks work better when you understand your enemy, said Day. Humans always want to study and analyze, said Commander Thresh. Sometimes action is better than thinking. Sometimes, agreed Hannah, but not this time. Admiral Zorth made his decision. We will spend 12 hours gathering intelligence. Then each team will present their final plan. I will choose the best option. Sir, said Lieutenant Day, can we get detailed scans of the station's internal structure? Ventilation systems, power conduits, maintenance tunnels. What are you thinking? Asked Zorth. Multiple entry points create multiple options, Day explained. The main door is the only safe entrance, said Vextar. Everything else is too dangerous. Dangerous for who? Asked Ensign Bow quietly. The meeting continued for another hour. Technical details were discussed. Equipment lists were made. Akij, species team, began planning their approach. As the briefing ended, the alien commanders gathered in one corner of the room. They spoke in low voices and kept looking at the human team. They think we are crazy, Bo whispered to Day. Good, she replied. Crazy can be useful. Captain Hannah joined them. What did you think about their plans? Fast and direct, said Day. But they all assumed the guards will react the same way alien warriors would react. Meaning? Asked Hannah. They expect a straight fight, explained Day. But what if we do not give them a fight at all? Pilot G looked confused. How do you clear a room without fighting? Lieutenant Day smiled mysteriously. There are many ways to win without throwing a single punch. The transport ship moved silently through space toward prison station Blackrock. Inside the cargo bay, different alien species prepared their weapons and equipment. The hegemony warriors sharpened their heavy blades. Zephyrians practiced their invisibility techniques. The Korthok fighters stretched their muscles and tested their throwing knives in a quiet corner of the ship. The human team sat around a small table covered with papers and data tablets. They had been studying for 8 hours straight without stopping for food or rest. Lieutenant Day pointed at a detailed map of the prison station. "Look at this pattern," she said to Captain Hannah. "The guards change positions every 10 minutes, but they always move in the same order." "Show me," Hannah said. Day traced lines on the map with her finger. Guard 1 moves from corner position to center. Guard 2 moves from center to wall position. Guard 3 moves from wall to corner. It goes around the room like a circle. Keynes, cool, looked up from his tablet. "I found something interesting about their meal schedule. They eat in groups of 4. One group eats while the other 8 keep watching the screens." "How long do they take to eat?" asked Pilot G. "Exactly 15 minutes, Bo replied. "Never longer, never shorter." Corporal 1 joined their discussion. She was the team's explosives expert, but she also knew about building structures. "I studied the station blueprints," she said. "The guard room has a weakness." "A kinda weakness?" asked Hannah. "The ventilation system," Juan explained. "All the air in that room comes through one main duct. 2. If something happened to the airflow, it would affect everyone inside." Sergeant, you set down his weapon cleaning kit. He was the team's best marksman. "I've been watching the camera feeds from outside the station. The guards inside are getting tired. They've been working long shifts for 3 days. Tired guards make mistakes," observed Day. "But tired guards are also more dangerous," warned Hannah. "Fear and exhaustion can make people unpredictable." Across the cargo bay, Commander Vexstar was giving orders to his hegemony warriors. His loud voice carried over the engine noise. "When we breach that door, we go in hard and fast," he told his soldiers. "No mercy, no hesitation. Kill everything that moves." His warriors nodded and checked their heavy weapons. Each hegemony fighter was twice the size of a human and carried enough firepower to destroy a small building. General Crix gathered her Zephyrian soldiers in another corner. They were tall and thin with pale skin that could change color like a chameleon. "Remember your training," she whispered to them. "Invisible entry, silent kills, perfect coordination. We are hunters, not warriors. We strike from the shadows." Soldiers began to shimmer and fade until they were almost impossible to see. Commander Thresh stood alone with his Korthok fighters. They were shorter than the other aliens, but moved with incredible speed and precision. "Accuracy is everything," he told them. 12 targets, 12 throws, 12 kills. No second chances. The Korthok warriors practiced their throwing techniques with metal blades that gleamed under the ship's lights. Admiral Zorth walked through the cargo bay, checking on each team. When he reached the humans, he found them still studying their papers and screens. "Interesting preparation method," he commented. "Most warriors would be checking their weapons right now." "Our weapons work fine," said Captain Hannah. "But weapons are useless if you do not know how to use them properly." "And you think you know how to use them?" asked the Admiral. "We think we know how not to need them," replied Lieutenant Day. Admiral Zorth looked confused. "Explain that statement." Day stood up and walked to a large screen showing the prison station. "Every species here is planning to fight 12 armed guards in a bright room with no cover. Okay. They want to win through superior force or speed. That is how wars are won," said Zorth. "Some wars," agreed Day, "but not all wars. Some wars are won by making the enemy defeat themselves. Guards with energy rifles will not defeat themselves," Zorth pointed out. "Maybe not," said Day, "but guards are people. People have needs, fears, and weaknesses. Okay? If you understand those things, you can use them. Pilot G activated a new display on their screen. Okay, look at this data we collected. The guards have been working 18-hour shifts for 3 days. They are exhausted, hungry, and stressed. So, asked Zorth. Exhausted people make poor decisions, explained Ensign Bo. Hungry people get distracted easily. Stressed people panic when things go wrong. You plan to use their fatigue against them? Zorth asked. We plan to use everything against them, said Captain Hannah. The Admiral studied the human team for a long moment. Show me your plan. Lieutenant Day activated another screen. It showed a detailed timeline with precise timing marks. Phase 1, she began. We create a small problem with the station's life support system. Nothing dangerous, just uncomfortable. The guards will notice, but they will not panic. What kind of problem? Asked Zorth. It's temperature increase, said Corporal 1. We can overload one heating unit to make the guard room too hot. Phase 2, Day continued. While they are distracted by the heat, we introduce a mild sedative. Gas through the ventilation system. Stat will put them to sleep, asked Zorth. Not sleep, corrected Sergeant Yu. Just slow their reflexes and make them drowsy. They will still be awake, but not thinking clearly. Phase 3, said Day. We cut the main lights, but leave the emergency lights on. The room becomes dim, but not completely dark. Why not complete darkness? Asked Zorth. Because complete darkness would make them panic and hit their alarm buttons, explained Hannah. Dim light makes them cautious, but not afraid. Phase 4, Day went on. We entered the room during their meal break when only 8 guards are actively watching. The other 4 will be eating and distracted. It's Phase 5, said Ensign Bo. We use non-lethal weapons to disable them quietly. Stun guns, sleep darts, neural disruptors. Phase 6, finished Captain Hannah. We secure the room and disable all alarm systems before anyone realizes what happened. Admiral Zorth was quiet for several minutes. He studied their timeline and checked their calculations, along for the entire operation. He finally asked, 2 minutes and 40 seconds, said Day. The alarm activates in 3 seconds if it detects a threat, Zorth reminded them. It will not detect the threat, said Hannah confidently. Because we will not give it. 1, you will enter a room with 12 armed terrorists and not be detected as a threat. Zorth sounded skeptical. We will enter a room with 12 sleepy, confused, half-blind people who think they are dealing with a maintenance problem, corrected Day. Across the cargo bay, the alien teams were finishing their preparations. Weapons were loaded, armor was checked, and final strategies were discussed. Commander Vextar approached the human group. I heard you explaining your plan to the Admiral, he said. It sounds very complicated. Complicated plans work when simple plans fail, replied Hannah. Simple plans work when warriors execute them properly, Vextar countered. What happens if your simple plan goes wrong? Asked Day. We improvise, said the hegemony commander. What happens if our complicated plan goes wrong? Day asked again. All die, Vextar said bluntly. True, agreed Day. But our plan is less likely to go wrong. General Crix joined the conversation. Her pale skin was shimmering slightly as she prepared for invisibility mode. Humans think too much, she said. In combat, thinking gets you killed. Instinct keeps you alive. Instinct is useful, said Lieutenant Day. But instinct without intelligence is just animal behavior. Animals survive, Crix pointed out. Animals also become extinct, replied Sergeant Yu quietly. Commander Thresh appeared beside them with his typical lightning speed. All this talk is meaningless, he said. In 1 hour, we will see which approach works. Yes, we will, agreed Captain Hannah. The transport ship began to slow down. Through the windows, prison station Blackrock grew larger and more threatening. Red warning lights blinked along its dark surface. All teams prepare for deployment, announced the ship's computer. Arrival in 30 minutes. The alien warriors gathered their weapons and formed into their attack groups. The humans packed their equipment into small, quiet bags. Lieutenant Day walked to the window and stared at the prison station. Her face was calm, but her mind was racing through every detail of their plan. Nervous? Asked Ensign Bo, joining her at the window. Focused, she replied. Think it will work? Day smiled slightly. It will work, because it has to work. Tease. Not very scientific, Bo observed. Science got us this far, said Day. Now we need something else. What? Faith in ourselves and in each other. Captain Hannah called her team together for one final briefing. Remember, she told them, we are not trying to be faster or stronger than our enemies. We are trying to be smarter. What if smart is not enough? Asked Corporal Juan. Then we improvise, said Hannah with a small smile, just like everyone else. Lieutenant Day moved through the dark maintenance tunnel like a shadow. Corporal Juan crawled silently with her equipment bag. Kana was barely wide enough for one person, and every sound seemed loud in the enclosed space. Position. Reached, Day whispered into her radio. Her voice was so quiet, it was almost just breathing. Copy that, came Captain Hannah's voice through her earpiece. 1. Start phase 1. Corporal 1 opened her bag and pulled out a small device. She attached it to the heating control unit on the tunnel wall. The device beeped once, very softly. 8. Heating system overload in progress, 1 reported. Temperature will rise in the guardroom in 60 seconds. Meanwhile, Ensign Bo was working at a different location. He had found the main air circulation. Unit 4, Section B. His hands moved quickly as he connected a small canister to the ventilation intake. Gas delivery system ready, he whispered, waiting for your signal. Sergeant Yu was positioned outside the guardroom in a maintenance closet. Through a tiny camera, he could see the hallway and the heavy door that led to their target. His tablet showed him the view from inside the guardroom through hacked security cameras. Visual confirmation, Yu reported. 12 guards present. 4 are eating meal. 8 are monitoring screens. All weapons visible. On the transport ship, Admiral Zorth watched multiple screens showing different camera angles. The alien commanders stood beside him, watching the human team work. They are moving very slowly, observed Commander Vextar. My warriors would already be inside by now. Slow and careful beats, fast and dead, replied Captain Hannah through the radio. Inside the guardroom, the terrorists were starting to notice the temperature change. One guard wiped sweat from his forehead. Another loosened his jacket. Something wrong with the air system? Asked one guard in their alien language. Probably just old equipment, replied another. This station is falling apart. They were annoyed, but not worried. The heat was uncomfortable, but not dangerous. Phase 1 complete, reported one. Room temperature now 15 degrees above normal. Beginning. Phase 2, said Captain Hannah. Ensign Bo pressed a button on his device. The small canister began releasing odorless gas into the air circulation system. The gas was harmless, but would make people drowsy and slow their thinking. Gas deployed, Bo whispered. Vex will begin in 90 seconds. Lieutenant Day moved through the tunnel toward the electrical systems. She found the main power control for the guardroom lighting. Her hands were steady as she prepared to cut specific wires. Lighting control located, she reported. Ready for phase 3. On the ship, General Crix watched with growing impatience. This is taking too long. They should attack now while the guards are distracted. Patience, said Admiral Zorth. Let them work. Inside the guardroom, more guards were noticing problems. The heat was making them uncomfortable, and some were starting to feel sleepy. I need some water, said one guard, standing up slowly. Sit down, ordered the guard captain. No one leaves their post. But the heat, the guard complained. Deal with it, the captain snapped. The guards eating their meal were having trouble staying awake. One nearly dropped his food. Another rubbed his eyes and yawned. "Effects of gas are visible," reported Sergeant Yu. "Guards showing signs of fatigue and confusion. It's beginning phase 3, said Captain Hannah. Lieutenant Day cut 3 specific wires in the power control unit. The bright white lights in the guard room went out instantly. Emergency lighting came on, casting everything in dim red light. The guards jumped to their feet, suddenly alert. But the gas was affecting their ability to think clearly. Power failure, said the guard captain. The backup systems. 2 guards moved toward the electrical panel on the far wall. They walked slowly, bumping into chairs because of the dim lighting and the gas effects. "Perfect," whispered Day. "Guards are separated and distracted. Beginning phase 4, announced. Captain Hannah, Sergeant, you moved out of his hiding place." He approached the guard room door with electronic lockpicks. His movements were smooth and silent. Inside the room, the guards were arguing about what to do. The heat, the gas, and the lighting problems had them confused and irritated. "Should we call for help?" asked one guard. Said the captain. "We can handle equipment problems ourselves." "But what if it is an attack?" worried another guard. "Attack would be loud and obvious," the captain replied. "This is just maintenance issues." You finished working on the door lock. The heavy door opened without any sound. "Door unlocked," he reported, ready for entry. Lieutenant Day appeared in the doorway like a ghost. She wore all black clothing and moved without making any noise. In her hands were 2 small devices that looked like thick pens. The guard room was filled with red emergency light and confused voices. The 12 guards were scattered around the room. 4 were still near the eating area. 2 were at the electrical panel. 6 were at their monitoring stations, but looking around nervously. Day entered the room and immediately moved to her right. The guards had not seen her yet because they were focused on their equipment problems. She approached the first guard from behind. He was looking at a screen and muttering about system failures. Day pressed one of her devices against his neck. There was a tiny electric spark. The guard slumped forward, unconscious, but breathing normally. "Target 1 neutralized," she whispered. The second guard was only 3 steps away. He was bending over to check wires under his desk. Kay moved behind him and used her second device. Another small spark, another unconscious guard. Target to neutralized. She picked up the second guard's stun weapon and moved toward the eating area. The 4 guards there were sitting at a table, trying to eat despite the heat in their growing sleepiness. Day stayed in the shadows near the wall. She aimed carefully and fired the stun weapon 4 times in rapid succession. Each shot was silent and accurate. All 4 guards collapsed onto their table, unconscious. Targets 3, 4, 5, and 6 neutralized. The remaining 6 guards were at their monitoring stations, but the gas was making them drowsy and confused. They had not noticed their companions falling unconscious because of the dim lighting and their own fatigue. Day moved along the wall toward the electrical panel where 2 guards were working. They were arguing about which wires to check first. She approached them from their blind spot. 2 quick applications of her neural disruptor, and both guards joined their sleeping teammates. Targets 7 and 8 neutralized. 4 guards remained. At the monitoring stations, they were starting to notice that something was wrong. "Where is everyone?" asked one guard, looking around the dim room. "Sleeping," said Day quietly, stepping out of the shadows. The guard turned toward her voice, but his reactions were too slow because of the gas. Day was already moving. She fired the stun weapon twice, dropping 2 guards instantly. The last 2 guards tried to reach for their alarm buttons, but their movements were sluggish and uncoordinated. Day crossed the room in 3 quick steps and neutralized them both before their hands could reach the emergency controls. "All targets neutralized," she reported. "Guard room secured." The entire operation had taken exactly 2 minutes and 38 seconds. Not a single alarm had been triggered. Not a single shot had been fired in anger. Impossible, breathed Commander Vextar on the ship. Outstanding work, said Admiral Zorth. All teams proceed to Phase 5. Lieutenant Day quickly moved to the main control panel. She began shutting down all alarm systems and unlocking doors throughout the prison station. Alarms disabled, she reported. Doors unlocked. Path to hostages is clear. Other human team members entered the guard room. Ensign Bo began working on the communication systems to prevent the terrorists from calling for help. Corporal 1 started binding the unconscious guards with plastic restraints. All hostiles secured, reported 1. They will sleep for several hours. Captain Hannah's voice came through the radio with satisfaction. Mission accomplished. All teams proceed with hostage rescue. On the transport ship, the alien commanders stared at their screens in amazement. They had watched the impossible happen. She did not fire a single lethal shot, said General Crix with disbelief. She did not even fight them, added Commander Thresh. She did not need to, replied Admiral Zorth. She was smarter than they were. Lieutenant Day stood in the center of the conquered guard room, surrounded by sleeping enemies and disabled security systems. She spoke into her radio with calm professionalism. Control room secured. All systems under our control. Ready for hostage extraction. Copy that. Day, came Captain Hannah's proud voice. Outstanding work. The room that was supposed to be impossible to take had fallen in less than 3 minutes. Not through superior speed, strength, or firepower, but through superior thinking and preparation. Phase 6 complete, reported Day. Mission successful. The rescue of 47 hostages could now proceed safely. All because one human had proven that the fastest way to win a fight was to avoid fighting at all. The rescue operation was complete. All 47 hostages sat safely in the transport ship's medical bay, receiving food and care from the ship's doctors. The human diplomats looked tired, but grateful. The alien diplomats from different worlds were speaking quietly among themselves, still shocked by their experience. In the main briefing room, Admiral Zorth stood before a large screen showing the interior of prison station Blackrock. The station was now under complete galactic control. All remaining terrorists had been captured without a single shot being fired. Mission report, Admiral Zorth announced to the assembled officers. Total operation time, 43 minutes. Hostages rescued, 47 out of 47. Casualties, 0. Terrorist casualties, 0. Collateral damage, 0. The alien commanders sat in stunned silence. These numbers seemed impossible for such a dangerous mission. Commander Vextar finally spoke. How is this possible? We expected heavy fighting and massive destruction. Clay, the security recordings. Admiral Zorth ordered. The main screen began showing footage from inside the guard room. The alien officers watched Lieutenant Day move through the shadows like a ghost. They saw her disable 12 armed guards in less than 3 minutes without making a sound. Incredible, whispered General Crix. She moved like a shadow hunter, but with perfect precision. The recording continued, showing how the human team worked together. Every action was planned and coordinated. Every movement had a purpose. There were no wasted motions, no unnecessary risks. Look at the timing, pointed out Commander Thresh. Every phase of their plan happened exactly when it was supposed to happen. Admiral Zorth paused the recording. Captain Hannah, explain how your team achieved these results. Captain Hannah stood up and faced the alien commanders. We studied our enemy instead of just fighting them. We learned their weaknesses and used those weaknesses against them. But Lieutenant Day moved faster than should be possible for a human, observed Vextar. She did not move faster, corrected Ensign Bo. She moved smarter. Every step was planned in advance. Lieutenant Day joined the discussion. Commander Vextar, your warriors are stronger than humans. General Crix, your soldiers can become invisible. Commander Thresh, your fighters have incredible speed. Not if you thought about what the guards were thinking. Explain, said Admiral Zorth. The guards expected an attack day, continued. They were ready for warriors breaking down doors, or invisible soldiers appearing from nowhere, or fast fighters throwing weapons. They were not ready for someone who made them defeat themselves. You made them defeat themselves, asked General Crix. The heat made them uncomfortable, explained Corporal Juan. The gas made them sleepy. The dim lights made them confused. By the time I entered the room, they were already half defeated. Sergeant, you activated another screen showing more footage. Watched their body language throughout the operation. I became less alert with each phase of our plan. The alien officers studied the recordings carefully. They could see how the guards became slower and less focused as the human plan progressed. This is not fighting, said Commander Thresh. This is manipulation. War is manipulation, replied Captain Hannah. Everything else is just violence. Admiral Zorth played more recordings from different parts of the station. Hayes showed other human teams moving through corridors and rescuing hostages. Every action was smooth and professional. Your teams worked with perfect coordination, observed the Admiral. How did you achieve such precision? Practice and communication, answered Pilot G. We trained together for months before this mission. We know how each person thinks and moves. More importantly, added Lieutenant Day, we planned 4 problems. Every phase of our operation had backup plans and alternate methods. What if the guards had not been affected by your gas? Asked Vexter. We had other options, said Day. Sound distractions, electromagnetic interference, even trained insects that could disable their equipment. Insects? General Crix looked confused. Small problems can create big opportunities, explained Ensign Bow. A few insects in the right places could have shut down their computers and communication systems. The alien commanders exchanged glances. They were beginning to understand that human warfare was completely different from their own approaches. Commander Thresh leaned forward. You said you planned for problems. What was your biggest concern during the mission? That we might be wrong about the guard's psychology, answered Day honestly. All our planning depended on understanding how they would react to different situations. And if you had been wrong, pressed Thresh, then we would have adapted, said Captain Hannah. Humans are very good at changing plans when necessary, Admiral. Zorth activated a new display showing casualty reports from similar missions conducted by other species. The numbers were shocking. Most rescue operations resulted in heavy losses on both sides. Look at these statistics, Zorth said. Previous hostage rescues have resulted in average casualty rates of 60%. Your mission achieved 0 casualties. How do you explain this difference? We did not try to be heroes, answered Lieutenant Day. We tried to be effective. There is a difference, asked General Crix. Heroes fight against impossible odds, explained Sergeant Yu. Effective soldiers change the odds before they fight, or avoid fighting entirely, added Corporal One. The room fell silent as the alien commanders absorbed this information. They had spent their entire careers believing that superior force was the answer to every problem. Your methods require extensive preparation, observed Commander Vextar. What happens during emergencies when there is no time to plan? We practice basic adaptation techniques, said Captain Hannah. But you are right that our methods work best with preparation time. Then humans are only useful for planned operations, asked Thresh. Not exactly, replied Day. We are useful whenever thinking is more important than strength. Admiral Zorth made a decision. Based on the results of this mission, I am recommending changes to our standard operating procedures. All future high-risk operations will include human strategic advisors. The alien commanders looked surprised. Furthermore, Zorth continued. I am establishing a new training program where human tactics instructors will teach adaptation and psychological warfare to all galactic military units. You want humans to train our warriors? Asked Vexstar with disbelief. I want our warriors to learn how to think like humans, corrected Zorth. Physical superiority means nothing if your enemy outsmarts you. General Crix spoke slowly. Admiral, are you saying that human mental abilities are superior to our physical abilities? I am saying that mental abilities can overcome physical limitations, Zorth replied. This mission proves that intelligence properly applied can achieve what force cannot. Lieutenant Day stood up. Admiral, we do not claim to be superior to anyone. We just use different tools to solve problems. What kind of tools? Asked Commander Thresh. Observation, analysis, creativity, adaptation, listed Ensign Poe. These are tools that any species can learn to use better. You would teach these tools to us? Asked Vexstar. You want to learn them, answered Captain Hannah. But remember, these tools require patience and practice. They are not as immediately satisfying as strength or speed. Over the following hours, detailed debriefings continued. The alien commanders asked hundreds of questions about human tactics, psychology, and strategic thinking. They wanted to understand every aspect of the successful mission. One final question, said Admiral Zorth. What do you consider your greatest advantage as humans? Lieutenant Day thought for a moment before answering. We assume that every problem has a solution. We just have to be clever enough to find it. And if there is no solution, asked General Crix. Then we create one, said Day with a small smile. The meeting ended with a new understanding between the species. Humans had proven that they belonged in galactic military operations, not as support personnel, but as strategic specialists whose minds were their greatest weapons. As the transport ship headed back to base, Captain Hannah found Lieutenant Day standing alone in the observation deck, looking out at the stars, thinking about the mission. Hannah asked. Thinking about the future, Day replied. Atita, we proved that humans can succeed in this galaxy. Tomorrow, we need to prove we can help others succeed too. Think they'll really want to learn from us? Asked Hannah. They will learn, said Day confidently, because the next time they face an impossible situation, they will remember what happened today. Outside the window, prison station Blackrock grew smaller in the distance. The mission was over, but its impact would be felt throughout the galaxy for years to come. Humans had earned their place among the stars, not through strength or speed, but through the one thing that truly mattered: the ability to think, adapt, and overcome any challenge through intelligence and determination.